But let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. So I'm trying not to talk about the pandemic. I'm tired of it. I suspect you're tired of it. There's only so much to say about it. And at this point, we're just waiting for a vaccine or a way to manage it. There's no new news. But here we are on Thanksgiving weekend, the first major sort of family holiday since Easter. And it was a shame to miss Easter in the spring, but I think at that point quarantine was still new. I still remember thinking, oh no, we're thinking through missing Easter, and especially from a church perspective, that's a tough pill to swallow. But at the same time, we were only a month or two into it at that point. It wasn't, there's still, the end seemed maybe in sight. We didn't know what we were dealing with. But now we've been at it more or less for 7 months. We want to see our people. And we're getting mixed messages about whether we can or not. But this is a time when we sure would like to. And it's a controversial thing. There are 14 million people in Ontario and about 8,400 active cases. That's 8,400 when I looked this up on Wednesday. Only 6 of which are in Hastings, Prince Edward. We know that the majority are in Toronto or Ottawa, and we know that that's why Toronto and Ottawa got locked down last night. And how many of us actually know someone who has the virus? I won't ask you to put your hands up, but I suspect not too many of us, if any, actually know someone personally who has the virus or has had it. Meanwhile, we don't like our personal freedoms being encroached on. We don't like being told to wear a mask. We certainly don't like being told to stay home and not see our friends and our family. We're worried about the economy. And how come we have to keep doing this when the numbers are so low? But to argue the other side, we also know that the numbers aren't as low as they appear. There's only 8,400 cases that we know of. There's certainly more. And it's not actually a game of overall numbers, it's a game of hospital beds. We may only have 8,400 cases, but how many hospital beds across the province do we have? Not everyone who gets the virus will need one, but there are only so many. And of course, the reasons that the numbers are as low as they are is because we're doing what we're told. Staying home, masks, hygiene, etc. are all keeping us at these relatively low numbers. I have to say personally, and maybe this is something I shouldn't say, but personally I'm not particularly worried locally. We can see that it's not here at this time. But we're only 2 hours away from the hotspots. Many people don't flinch at 2 hours in the car, and that works both ways. I said to someone this week, actually, that I'd be a lot less stressed about church if it weren't for the fact that we were on Highway 37, a major route between Toronto and Ottawa. There's a lot of people that travel between the two hotspots right here. Frankly, it's a lot to keep in mind. Even our government can't seem to keep it straight. And while it's easy to be armchair virologists these days, we certainly can't keep it straight either. We don't know all the moving parts. So we're left basically playing the waiting game. And Thanksgiving weekend is bound to be a time when we're awfully tired of playing the waiting game. I know I am. Now, we've had this conversation a few times here. I'm not a big holiday guy myself. I don't care about the pomp or pageantry, and I genuinely don't like the unrealistic expectations we often bring to holidays. We want sort of the Hallmark card vision, and that's not how life works, right? So I'm not always the biggest fan of holidays. What I do love, though, is a time to see people. Generally, for these holidays, my family and my aunt's family get together. Maybe we'll see a few others. It's generally not a big group, especially compared to some of the farm family gatherings out here. I used to sort of laugh at Rosalind. A Sunday dinner was, the size of a Christmas dinner at our house. Sort of a once-a-year thing. They did that every week. But I do really look forward to it. I'm very close with my cousin, and he's been back in the province for a little over a year. And it'll be a particular shame not to see him this weekend. He's in Ottawa, and he was thinking about maybe like doing a socially distanced outside drive-by. And he texted us last night to say, no, I'm in Ottawa, we got locked down, we're not leaving the house. And I know some people are feeling an awful lot more lonely than I am this weekend. But I do get it, is what I'm trying to say. If it weren't for this second wave that, frankly, we don't know what to do with, some of us have chosen to just go ahead, and some of us have chosen to hunker down. We don't know what to do, especially because we're in the middle, right? We're rural. It's tricky. If it weren't for this second wave, Thanksgiving would be an awfully nice pressure relief valve after having 7 months at home. Now, Psalm 65 is a psalm of thanksgiving and praise. It's very celebratory and may not seem like one that matches where we are right now. But verses 2 and 3 add a very important dimension, and they go like this. O you who answer prayer, to you all flesh shall come. When deeds of iniquity overwhelm us, you forgive our transgressions. I'll read that again. O you who answer prayer, to you all flesh shall come. When deeds of iniquity overwhelm us, you forgive our transgressions. What are they praying for? What deeds of iniquity needed forgiveness? There's multiple dimensions to this psalm. It's always good to take stock during a stable time. When things are good, it's an excellent time to stop and give thanks. When things are going smoothly, it's an excellent time to plan for when they might not be. But we know that's generally not what happens. I certainly don't think that's what happened here with this psalm. This psalm is giving thanks for a change. It's recognizing that they have come out of a difficult time into a strong one. Maybe war into peace, like with our painting. Maybe famine into harvest. Maybe a cultural conflict has ended. Though just from the psalm, I'd have my money on famine. It's tough to tell with psalms sometimes. They're saying thanks to God for bringing them out of a time of hardship and into a time of plenty. This is a really cliched question that I don't necessarily agree with, but how do you recognize good times without the bad? I'm not saying that the bad are there to show us what's good. I think sometimes bad things just happen. But I do think that bad times lead to growth. Usually it's conflict that brings us to growth. Or to put it more biblically, death is what leads to resurrection. Like I said, it would be great if we prepared for the bad times during the good. And in really healthy circumstances, sometimes we do. But generally, we have to come up against some kind of barrier or see some kind of barrier on the horizon before we're willing to change directions. Why would we? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? You could even go as far as to say that the best case scenario proactive approach is just identifying what's pretty far out on the horizon. You can almost imagine two ships navigating on the ocean and knowing that in a day they're going to come too close to each other. It's identifying that horizon further out. It always takes some kind of conflict in order to change. The community from which this psalm came had to face some hardship before they could move in a healthier direction. Jesus had to die so that we could realize what we are capable of, and that God is stronger than our worst fears. Regardless of the choices we've each made, and I think this time calls for us to be respectful of making choices where there is no right choice. But this Thanksgiving's not like the others. My question is that necessarily bad? Looking at our painting, we've got the storm and the rainbow, and the farmer underneath that needs both. So is it bad that this Thanksgiving's not like the others? And I think that depends on us. Like every loss or conflict, we have a choice as to whether we focus on what has been lost or whether we focus on what is now possible. We have a choice as to whether we choose this to be the end or whether we look for the new direction God is calling us in. And I want to be clear, grieving is healthy, necessary, and good. But we shouldn't get stuck in it. It shouldn't be the end. So maybe a few of you have had Thanksgiving dinner already. But if you haven't, or maybe just as a thought exercise, I wonder what you might give thanks for next year. What tradition or realization will begin this year? I guarantee that next year there's going to be people doing Zoom calls as part of Thanksgiving dinner when they don't have to, but you can connect with people that you never would have thought you could connect with before on Thanksgiving. You know, think about things like that. What tradition or realization is going to begin this year that we'll be thankful for next year? The past year has been different. It's certainly not ideal. Even those who are appreciating the change of pace don't want it to stay the way it is right now. But a lot of people are appreciating new things. And even on this particular weekend, where a lot of us were hoping for an end, a change, something different, what might we appreciate in hindsight? What new traditions might we begin? What old traditions might we be less than upset to let go of? What realizations might we have? Healthy conflict leads to growth. Death is necessary for resurrection.